The Gambino family was one of the most prolific organizations in the history of organized crime. Beyond the flashy headlines and spectacle, however, there were real stories. Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, a high-ranking Gambino member at the time, was on his way to authorize an honorary induction. Mobsters were traditionally made during their lives of crime, but this case was different. Joseph Peruta was a longtime associate of the family who was dying of cancer. Time was running out. Although overdue, his commitment to mob life would eventually pay off in his final days.
Nostra, our thing. You put it before your wife, before your children, before the air you breathe.
When he was finally inducted, he was deserving, as he embodied what La Cosa Nostra stood for. La Cosa Nostra is not just an organization, it's a way of life. You obey the boss at all times, keep your lips sealed, and practice silence, omerta. La Cosa Nostra means our thing. It was a collective effort every member should practice, and Peruta did exactly that.
Your soul burns. Just like this saint.
Stories like this were what the Gambino family was built for. Ones that the father figure, Carlo Gambino, would have been proud of. But a new wave was coming. A young takeover led by John Gotti, a time when the Mafia was becoming less dogmatic. Fast money from narcotics and the weakening of omerta became apparent. It was as if events were steered by human emotion. Ego and greed began to creep in, and that was exactly the case. At the beginning of 1986, John Gotti officially took over the Gambino family after years of meticulous planning and eventual execution. Gotti didn't care much for secrecy, and his downfall, eventually being arrested in 1992 and sentenced to life without parole, came as a result of the destruction of the very thing that made the Mafia strong, omerta. The execution was so brazen that it not only put him in jeopardy, but also brought down the whole family and other Mafia families. He casually gathered with his members outside social clubs, such as the Ravenite Social Club and the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club, as though he were invincible and immune to the FBI. However, law enforcement was able to surveil the family and expose the inner workings of the Mafia, all thanks to his hubris.